Hello everybody, this is that Mr. Tibbles guy here, and today we're going to be playing some more Happy Wheels. Dang it. Billy, why do you have to change the plans? I told you not to do that. I'll let it slide this time. But next time, oh god, you're going to be hurting. So, we're going to actually be doing a book review. The book I'm reviewing is called What If? It's a really funny book by Randall Munroe. Hilarious author of a hilarious webcomic called XKCD. And so the first thing I'm going to do before I review the book is read an excerpt. Hello everybody, this is that Mr. Tibbles guy here, and today we're going to be playing some more Happy... No we're not. Billy! Billy! It's all your fault! Why do you change the plans? Dang it! Okay, sorry about that. He's just a bit, what's the word? Stupid. Shut up! Look. Okay, so before we review the book, well, that book, said book, is What If by Randall Munroe, hilarious author of a hilarious webcomic. And before I review the book, I am going to read an excerpt. So, the chapter is called Spent Fuel Pool, and the question is, what if I took a swim in a typical spent nuclear fuel pool? Would I need to dive to actually experience a fatal amount of radiation? How long could I stay safely at the surface? And so, I'm going to read an excerpt from this chapter, and as soon as I find it, I will get back. Okay, I found it. Okay, so, listen. That's if everything goes as planned. If there's corrosion in the spent fuel rod casings, there may be some fission products in the water. They do a pretty good job of keeping the water clean, and it wouldn't really hurt you to swim in it. But it's radioactive enough that it wouldn't be legal to sell as bottled water, which is too bad, because it'd make a hell of an energy drink. We know spent fuel pools can be safe to swim in because they're routinely surfaced by human divers. And that is the excerpt I would read. There's also another one, but I'm not going to read it. I'll probably read a chapter of it at the end of the video. And the first thing I'd like to say is a couple things about the author. I'll get back to you. Okay, so I found the document, and I would like to say a little bit about him before I review the book. So, he is a CNU grad. I'm not sure where that is. I'll probably Google it. He has a physics degree. He has a, what's it called? PhD in physics, yeah. His full name is Randall Patrick Munroe. And his webcomic XKCD is not an acronym. It's just, quote unquote, an unpronounceable mesh of letters. So, before I say anything else, there's one really, really cool thing that he did. Well, he didn't do it. People did it for him. But he was nominated for the Hugo Award. The Hugo Award. God, talk! Okay, so, while that page is loading, let's say a bit more about him. His favorite comic, paper comic. And for those of you children who don't know what paper is, it is a thing that this book is written in. It looks something like that. You can use an actual pencil to write on it, and it stays pretty well. Like you can see some right there. And that's enough about paper. So his favorite paper comic is Calvin and Hobbes. And oh, the page just loaded. So the Hugo Award. The Hugo Awards are a set of awards given annually to the...
According to Wikipedia, the Hugo Awards are a set of awards given annually for the best science fiction or fantasy works and achievements of the previous year.
Thanks, Siri. That wasn't actually Siri, that was probably Cortana. Either that or Iris, Android's version of Siri. Which is funny, because that's just Siri backwards. So, his wife in 2012 was diagnosed with breast cancer. That was one of probably the biggest things that's ever happened in his life, and it took them about 8 months to get rid of the tumor that was in her breast. Yeah. Well, enough about his wife. enough about his wife. They were married in 2012 and have been living happily since then. They have 2 kids, and so yeah, that's enough about him. And let's get to the stuff about the book. So some things about the book. The book is it's really funny. It's informative. I mean, I guess you could say that, because it, like, how long would you survive if you went swimming in a spent nuclear fuel pool? I mean, sure, but you'd probably die of bullet wounds before you got to the pool itself. Anyways, I'm pretty sure it has a good cause. Unless it's encouraging people to use machine guns to make a jetpack and try to fly over mountains, then it has a good cause. Yeah. Fun for all the family. The humor in it isn't like slapstick humor. I mean, some of it is, but a lot of it's really, really clever wit. I mean, listen to this. Okay, so I found the place, and this is it. So this chapter is all the lightning, and the question is, if all the lightning strikes happen in the world on any given day, all happened in the same place at once, so what that means is, like, every lightning strike in the world for one day combined to make one uber bolt. And what would happen to the place that it struck? Okay? Now listen to this. They say lightning never strikes the same place twice. They are wrong. From an evolutionary perspective, it's a bit surprising that this saying has survived. You'd think the people who believed it would have been gradually filtered out of the living population. Yeah. So now for some literary elements on it. It's kind of hard to do it because it's like a question book. It's sort of like a blog book, and BLAG spelled. I love that joke. And so I'm gonna try to put some literary elements in here, but it's gonna be kind of hard, so they're probably not gonna be very many. Let's go. It's a non-fiction book because, well, I mean, I can't say that it all happened in real life, but it's not fiction because it's sort of in a genre of its own. But just because I can't invent a word off the top of my head, I mean, I probably could if I tried to think about it, but that's not off the top of my head. It's non-fiction because there are facts in it. That's how you tell the difference. I mean, it's in second person because it's saying sort of like, you could survive, or it would happen this way and you would do this. I mean, I guess that's second person, but I'm not really sure. And then after reading it, since there's not really many characters in the book, except Billy. He's probably dead by now. Except Billy, and he's... Does dynamic character mean someone goes from alive to dead? Does it? I guess so, yeah. So, after reading it, I guess I'm the only really character, and I would say I'm a dynamic character, because now I know what a negative... Like, I didn't even know that there was an earthquake below 0. I thought 0 was like this, like there's nothing shaking the ground. I thought that was as low as it went, but it can go infinitely low, like a negative 25 earthquake, negative 15 earthquake is a drifting mote of dust coming to rest on a table 5 miles away. That's a negative 15 magnitude earthquake. Yeah, it's possible. And one of the funniest parts is this. Listen to this. Okay, so a magnitude 0 earthquake, I didn't know it was just nothing. I thought it was just nothing. I didn't know that it would be like the Dallas Cowboys running at full tilt into the side of your neighbor's garage. I mean, I love that. The wit is so funny. And so before I say anything, before I read the chapter, I would like to say you should buy this book, and No, Randall Munroe didn't hire me to say this, but it is an awesome book. I really advise reading it. And if you've ever read any XKCD comics, go to xkcd.com. Yeah, remember the order, otherwise it'll just be like DCKX and nothing will come up. Or you can just Google XKCD. And now I'm going to read a chapter from the book. So, give me a minute and I'll find it. Okay, I'm back. So, this is the chapter I'll be reading. It's called Raindrop. And the question is, what if a rainstorm dropped all of its water in one single drop? Submitted by Michael McNeil. And the answer is, it's midsummer in Kansas. The air is hot and heavy. Two old-timers sit on the porch in rocking chairs. On the horizon to the southwest, an ominous-looking clouds begin to appear. The towers build as they draw closer, and the tops spread out into an anvil shape. They hear the tinkling of wind chimes as the gentle breeze picks up. The sky begins to darken. Moisture. For a more sophisticated answer, let's talk about moisture. Air holds water. If you walled off a column of air from the ground up to the top of the atmosphere, and then cooled the column of air down, the moisture in it would contain and condense out as rain. If you collected the rain at the bottom of the column, it would fill it to a depth of anywhere between 0 and a few dozen centimeters. That's the depth that we call the air's total precipitable water, TPW. Normally, the TPW is 1 or 2 centimeters. Satellites measure this water vapor content for every point in the globe, producing some truly beautiful maps. Well, imagine our storm measures 100 kilometers on each side and has a high TPW of around 6 centimeters. This means that the water in the rainstorm would have a volume of 0.6 kilometers cubed. And to put that into scale, that's about 200 million tons of water. Now to put that in perspective, I weigh 90 pounds. That's it. I weigh 90 pounds. Now, yeah, that's a lot of water. That water would weigh 600 million tons. Which happens to be about the current weight of our species. Normally, a portion of this water would fall scattered as rain. At most 6 centimeters of it. In this storm, all that water instead condenses into one giant drop, a sphere of water over a kilometer in diameter. We'll assume it forms a couple of kilometers above the surface, since that's where most rain condenses. The drop begins to fall. For 5 or 6 seconds, nothing is visible. Then, the base of the cloud begins to bulge downward. For a moment, it looks like a big funnel cloud is forming. Then the bulge widens, and at the 10-second mark, the bottom of the drop emerges from the cloud. The drop is now falling at 200 miles an hour. The roaring wind whips up the surface of the water into spray, the leading edge of the drop that turns to foam as the air is forced into the liquid. If it kept falling for long enough, these forces would gradually disperse the entire droplet into rain. Before that can happen, about 20 seconds after formation, the edge of the droplet hits the ground. The water is moving around 450 miles an hour. Right under the point of impact, the air is unable to rush out of the waves fast enough, and the compression heats it so quickly that the grass would catch fire if it had time. Fortunately for the grass, this heat lasts only a few milliseconds because it's doused by the arrival of a lot of cold water. Unfortunately for the grass, the cold water is moving at over half the speed of sound. Sorry, your ass. If you were floating in the center of this sphere during this episode, you wouldn't have felt anything unusual up till now. It'd be pretty dark in the middle, and if you had enough time and lung capacity to swim a few hundred meters out towards the edge, you'd be able to make out the dim glow of daylight. As the raindrop approaches the ground, the buildup of air resistance would lead to an increase in pressure that would make your ears pop. But seconds later, when the water contacted the surface, you'd be crushed to death. The shockwaves briefly create pressures exceeding those at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest spot in the world. In the ocean's world. Ball. Oh, I'm gonna have to put a sensor beep there. The water plows into the ground, but the bedrock is unyielding. The pressure forces the water sideways, creating a supersonic omnidirectional jet. Just about the coolest triplet of words I've ever seen. That destroys everything in its path. The wall of water expands outward, kilometer by kilometer, ripping up trees, houses, and topsoil as it goes. The porch, the house, and the old-timers are obliterated in an instant. Everything within a few kilometers is completely scoured away, leaving a pool of mud atop bedrock. The splash continues outwards, demolishing all structures out to a distance of around 20 or 30 kilometers. At this distance, areas shielded by mountains or ridges are protected, and the flood begins to flow along natural valleys and waterways. The broader region is largely protected from the effects of the storm. Though areas hundreds of kilometers downstream experience flash flooding hours after the impact, news trickles into the world about the inexplicable disaster. There is widespread shock and puzzlement, and for a while, every new cloud in the sky causes mass panic. Fear reigns supreme as the world fears reigns supreme. Whoa. Say that out loud. But years pass without any sign of the disaster repeating. Atmospheric scientists try for years to piece together what happened, but no explanation is coming forth. Eventually they give up, and the unexplainable meteorological that's as best as I can do. Meteorological phenomenon is simply called a dubstep storm, because in the words of one researcher, it had one hell of a drop. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.